Good morning and welcome once more to Norma Talks. This is 2 days away from New Year's. What we might say is what, 2 more sleeps? Today, I wanted to talk about, in a way, goal setting, because very often people, when the new year comes along, they sit down and they make all sorts of degrees and ideas of what they want to do for the new year. Now, last year, 2020, hasn't been the easiest, and most of us are still in lockdown, wearing masks, and adjusting to a different form of life. And it's not going to change in 2 days. But you yourself personally can make all sorts of changes. And I've heard wonderful stories from people of how communities are coming together as they walk. And it could be because in BC, where I live, although we're mandated so many numbers and this and that, people go out and walk often and without masks. And so the communities are coming together and talking and getting to know each other. So that everything is a plus. There's always a downside and an upside. And sometimes the downsides affect us to the point we don't see the upsides. Not that I really like what's happened in my life, but at the same point, I do know that I am responsible for how I feel. And I also am responsible of what and where and how things are going. Now, I'm just going to show you here, and not in what year was that I wrote this, 93, I think I published this little book called Secrets for Living Happily. This book is a very basic book that I had written because not everybody wanted to know the tarot. And within the teaching of the tarot, I'm able to explain a lot of things. So I sat down and I wrote this little book called Secrets for Living Happily, and it's not really available anywhere else besides myself, I think, because a few bookstores locally have it, but it's sort of haven't really been pushing that end of it and being on top of that. But I do give it to clients to, I have some copies left, not a lot, to look at because it has some very good basic information. And it has a lot about goal setting. And creating. And you might not think about it, you say, oh, I'm going to make my New Year's resolutions. But resolutions need to have a little bit more impact than that. You need to have an understanding of what you want. Now, one of my chapters was inventory of your life. Can you believe that? But it does. And I'm just going to read some of the highlights because I want to make sure I get them all. You make a list of the areas of your life, for instance, work, relationships, personal time, children, finances, spiritual growth, and ask yourself, how happy am I in, let's say, work or whatever? Put a percentage on it. I'm 80% happy with work. I'm 75% happy with relationships. I'm 50% with finances, etc. Now, the key here very often when people make a mistake, but this one is the next thing that says, look at your list and pick one category. If you are 80% happy with work, then you're unhappy with 20% of it. So what exactly is a 20%? What aspects of your work do you not like? And by contemplating the 20%, you will be acknowledging rather than denying what you do not want. You will find you react to the percentage you do not like in one of two ways. You will not want to look at the aspects of your life which contribute to your unhappiness, which results in you denying your feelings of frustration, anger, disillusionment, or whatever it is you're feeling. And by denying what you do not like, you actually give it power. It takes a lot of energy to resist anything. Therefore, I recommend you look at your list and acknowledge to yourself the feelings which you have been resisting and burying so you can let them go. Now, that's not saying that you go around concentrating on that. It's an idea to get a bigger perspective so that you have an idea of what is going on in your life in those different areas and what it is you don't want to see. We have a tendency to push it away. But I don't want to see that. You're going to push it down, push it to the side, and plain ignore it. And energy is energy. And sometimes the energies, the frustrations, the angers and things like that we're not truly addressing often has more of an impact on what's going to be happening in your life than you will realize. So let's just move back for a minute, because I wanted you to have an awareness of that. You want a happy life no matter what is happening. You want to be happy on the inside, not outside. Things outside are great, because if you're happy in here, it will reflect into the outer. Now, one of the things when I was looking at how I was going to approach this today, because what I've always done, because I always do this on New Year's Day, I take a look at what I call my goals. But I'm going to suggest this. Write down 10 things that you would like to have happen or create or be. Just kind of write down 3. Now, and to consider the different things we just looked at, personal and or spiritual, your work or your career, which includes financial and other things that go on. Personal carries a lot of how your life is and what you do and what you're doing and what's the main things. But then you pick 3 main ones. And then this is where people, I find, make a big mistake. They try, it's like looking at a buffet meal and they want it all. And what they end up is missing out the taste of individual and different things. So what you want to do is you're going to look at your buffet and say, okay, I'm going to take these 3. And those are the 3 main things that you feel, yeah, this is where what I want to either A, create, or this is what I want to work on, or this is what I want to achieve. Now, once you get that, I'm going in a moment or two, I'm going to give you a visualization that you can do. It's quite easy to create. And it's one of the things I find that really helps. And it's what I call the first step principle. But there's another thing that I want to talk about before I do that. Decisions. We make decisions on a daily basis. Most of them, they're to decide whether we're going to go right or left, whether we're going to have rice or potatoes or have none of it, whether we're going to follow this, because usually diets for a lot of people are big at the beginning of January. Are we going to do this one or are we going to do that one? So there's a lot of many decisions that we make. What often people don't realize is they haven't really decided. They just think they have. When you decide something, it's something that kind of clicks down inside you. And it's a knowingness. It's like, no matter what, this is what is going to be. So when I tell you the visualization that you'll be able to do, and you can follow this, so you're going to make your decision, figure out what your decision is, and you can, what a goal that you want to create. First of all, when I say pick 3 things, I want you to realize they are goals. These are 3 things that you want to have in your life, 3 things that you want to create, 3 things that you would like to experience, whether they're interpersonal ones or external ones. And then that key is very often defined. Now, there's one error and it is an error that I find for a lot of people when they're goal setting, when I teach classes on this is what I find. Okay, write down what your goal is. Well, then we start exploring, let's say there are 10 goals. And many of those aspects of those 10 goals are actually steps towards creating the major goal. And it's not to confuse a step with the end result, because what you want is to get very clear in the end result you want. And I know when I have, made a decision on something, I said that incorrectly. Let me just rephrase that. When I have a goal that I want, that unless I really make a decision and commit to that, make that decision so I know I'm committed to that, very often I'm like everybody else. I kind of forget or weave away from it, and it doesn't occur and it doesn't happen the way I want it to. And that's because I really haven't committed to my decision. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. But something may come along or something else changes my focus, and it's like I get caught away. And I know I'm just like everybody else. That's how I've learned so many things, is because every one of us is similar. Some of us may be a bit more stubborn. Some of us may be a bit more determined. Some of us may have programs inside of us that make it that we are not as so sure of ourselves as we need to be, all those things. But the key is you make a decision. I made a decision years and years ago. I wanted to discover what God was. So I went on a lifetime journey figuring that out until I found what worked for me. So it's like you find where you're going when those decisions are, and no matter what, you're going to do them. And I would listen to as I grew, so to say, I listened more to my inner side, and I listened more to the direction of where I want to go and what I want to do. Just want to make sure I've followed the decision. I've got another note in my book here. Oh yeah, I just had made a note of to look at the don't want and want lists. And just to carry on with the happy, I'm just going to spend just a moment on this. I have a little box in here and I've got don't want on one side and I've got don't want to be unhappy. So what do I want? To be happy. I don't want to be yelled at. What do I want? To be communicated with openly and honestly. I don't want to be mad inside. I want to feel at peace within. I don't want to feel the economic pinch. I do want to have more than enough money. And I don't want to dislike my work. I want to enjoy what I do. So where do you put your emphasis? You must acknowledge that which you don't want, but then okay, I don't want that, but you don't put your emphasis on that. You put the emphasis on what you do want and do those things that you need to do. So I'm going to lead you through a little visualization on one thing that you would like to achieve. And so if you can follow along with this, that'd be great. If not, you can always relook and follow through then when you've decided what it is that you want after you've listened to this. So take a breath, close your eyes. I want you to imagine the goal, the end result of the goal that you want. I want you to see it in front of your eyes, if you can visualize it, or if you can't, if you're not a visualizer, feel it. Oh, there it is out there. And because in feelings, there is vision. So as in vision, there is also feelings. So it's like, just imagine, there's the goal, but it's out in front. It's not right where you can put your hand. So as you look at that goal, as you perceive that goal, as you see that goal within, I want you to think, okay, I want you to take a step towards it. And I want you to just to imagine in that step, what is it that you're going to need to do in order to get to that goal? What is it you need to do? I call it the first step principle. What is the first step that you need to do? But just allow yourself to tell you what that is. Okay, I've got to do this. Now I want you to keep slowly, very slowly in your mind, stepping towards the goal that you want. You may, as you look at it, realize, oh my goodness, this goal is quite a way away. I have to really recognize what I'm going to do, or it could be quite close. But that's the wonderful thing of visualizing it and seeing it and knowing, okay, what steps do I need to take? So you take your first step and you take a breath. And then in your mind, you go, okay, there's that goal. Now, what's my next step? Just so that you begin to get an idea of some of the steps you're going to need to take. And as you take another step and you allow that goal to come closer. Now, some of you may come into a step where you don't think that you can get through it. And that's where you need to realize that if it's there, there's a way around it. You just have to trust yourself, trust whatever energies you look towards to support you, and take that step to go forward. It might be something you're frightened of. It may be something that you're not sure of. And it may be just that you don't believe and trust in yourself yet. So you take another breath and you take a step. And you might have taken 3 steps and you're at your goal. Great. You may have to take 10 steps. No matter what, you just keep in your mind walking towards the goal that you want. And then I want you to allow that feeling of the goal to be right there, that you're in the goal. And how does that feel? Is there some adjustments? Because when we're looking at a goal, very often, we're not seeing it in its fullness. We just see something that we want. And the key here is for you to know that there is, yes, you can, but maybe there is some adjustments that need to be made. And so you recognize those to come in. Maybe also, as I said earlier, it could be a step. It's not the real goal. This isn't really where I want to end up. Oh, this is just a step towards a bigger goal that I want. All of this is information for you. All of this is the awareness. Now, when you step into the goal and feel it, you take it on. It's like you're in it. And you can feel it. You know what it feels like, and it's real. You want to make it as real as possible for you. And that's when you decide, this is mine. And then you can kind of let that go. Now, what I used to do in my workshops is I'd have people work with 3 goals, and we would just do that, walk and embrace one goal. And we would go and we would embrace a second goal. And then we would embrace a third goal. And then I would have people look at these goals, 1, 2, and 3. You can do this at home. And you'd say, well, which is the most important? And as I said, many found, well, if I achieve goal 3, it'll lead me to goal 1. Some of them will say, oh, I thought number 1 was the main goal, but it's not, it's number 2. That's really, really what I want. So clarity in what you want, clarity in where you're going to go, clarity in how you can create it. I've used this over the years, many, many times for myself. Sometimes though, like everybody else, I'll forget. I get caught up in life and I forget that I was the master of my own life until circumstances created a world in which I had to really come to terms that if I wanted to be the master I wanted to be, because that was part of it, was to do what you needed to do and let go of those things. And I'm still not perfect, which is why I talk to you, because I'm like everybody else. But mostly I'm very contented with my life. And if I'm not, I work, what do I need to do? Now, I have mentioned before, and I'm going to mention this again. I became so contented that I forgot to set goals for myself. I forgot to stay on top of my life because I was just, this is it, I'm contented here. And then my life fell apart in so many ways you wouldn't believe. And I looked back and I thought, well, what happened? Here I was living very contentedly, everything going well, because I wasn't generating newness in my world. I wasn't creating new things. I'm doing Wednesday Norma talks because, I know it sounds funny sometimes when people hear me say this, but I was directed internally to be, because I had a YouTube trouble. I had a YouTube channel from when I used to do movie reviews several years earlier, and then I sort of let that go through all the things that were going on, and it just said, start teaching what you know. Well, I didn't know at that time. I couldn't do any more classes really because of lockdowns and people not being able to travel and things like that. I'm not able to travel. So life was changing. And this was January. My first one was January 9th, last year, 2019. And slowly and surely, I began to learn and get a handle. And thanks to you watching, especially people who are subscribed, has grown. And I have to say, I have a group of people who truly support me when I record these on Wednesdays, and they have become very, very important because I know not only am I talking on the airwaves for when people listen, but I have people listening right now who have joined me in my studio in Zoom for me to be able to record these. And it's like my goal. So I have begun to, in the back of my mind, prepare myself for what do I want to achieve? Because you always do on Friday when it's New Year's Day, I do a year's reading for myself to take a look at the year to see what I need to be aware of, what I'm wanting to achieve. Last 2 years have had a lot of ups and downs in them. And it'll be interesting for me to see what this next year is going to bring. Also, at the beginning of December, I did a reading for December, and some of that is being activated, and some of it, obviously, I'm waiting for the last few days to see. But I also plan next Wednesday to doing one for January and discussing about what's been going on. I really want you to achieve what you want in 2021. You may not be able to achieve it externally because of circumstances, but you can achieve it internally. You can become happy. You can become resourceful in friends and other ways of looking at things. I know at one point this year, I was getting upset over what was happening, and I really had to sit down and have a talk with myself. I am a metaphysical minister. I don't really talk about being a reverend too much. I do weddings, and my Sunday talk reflects more of the philosophical side of my life, but I had to really sit down and say, hey, is this look what it's doing? You're getting all upset over something you can't control. What are you doing? And so I made that decision. Remember, that's that big famous word, decision, to just observe, not ignore, not going to ignore what's going on, but observe and look at the actions and check my own reactions and do the things that I feel really good about and what I can do for myself, my friends, and my family as much as possible. So it's really about knowing that you have the ability within you, as I said, to look at a visualization that you can create and see, does that goal fit for me? Is it really, really what I want? Because very often we're looking for something that is not really what we want. We're looking at things that may be what we think we want. What you think you want and what you do want in your heart are often two very different things. And remember who you are. Years ago, when I used to attend a metaphysical group in Vancouver, we had a great speaker. Reverend Marilyn Canet was a great speaker. And one of the things she said to me that made a very big impact, well, there were two things. And one of them was, we are a spiritual being having a human experience. As the years went by, and I really came to realize as a soul, we are infinite. And this is just a little blip of time that we're passing in. And yes, this is an emotional planet. And yes, it really gets very upsetting sometimes. And yes, people that we love leave us, they die, they go on. And the key for me is not to be afraid of death, but knowing that is as we're born, and no one knows really how long our lifespan is. But she also said, you can be the star, the director, and the producer of your life, or you can be a bit player in somebody else's. Think about that. Are you the producer and the director and the star of your life? Or are you a bit player in somebody else's? Sometimes it's important to be a bit player in somebody else's. I don't mind that. As long as it fits in with me being that person that I want to be. And that's part of often what we learn, is to claim who we are and what we're doing, where we're going. And for everybody who listens to this, for everybody who watches it, I really want you to know that love moves through airwaves. It truly does. And I trust that you can sense that my lovingness of whoever listens to this and whenever they listen have my very best. And as with this 2020 draws to a close and we open up next Wednesday's opened Norma Talks with a new year, I want you all to really plan for your own selves inside, no matter what is happening on the outside, the very, very, very best for yourself and your family and for those that you care for. And to recognize when things happen and people leave us for various reasons, they just left the body. They haven't left the planet, usually, anyway. and they can hear your thoughts and they can see you. So think good thoughts. Be happy within yourself for your life, and be happy for that they have freed up from whatever was ailing them or whatever was sad for them. I know, because I've been through it, and I know that we can survive. We're phenomenal humans. We're strong. We have a sense of understanding, and we have a great capacity to love. I wish you all the very, very best for this New Year's Eve, which is coming, for New Year's Day, which is following, and for 2021. God bless.